Here's an overview of roots, specifically. A little bit more detail here. When a seed sprouts, it puts out its first root to get more water and nutrients from the soil. We have an apical meristem in the root that causes it to grow deeply into the soil. This is how the plant gets raw materials for development before the stems and the leaves emerge from the soil. Two main types of root systems, taproot system and fibrous root system. As we discussed in the last section, taproots are mostly found in dicots, like a dandelion, and fibrous root systems are found mainly in monocots, like grass. A taproot is a primary root that gives rise to smaller branch roots. That taproot is the main, if you think of a carrot, that's a taproot. Taproots of oak and hickory trees grow so long that they can reach water several meters below the surface of the earth. A dandelion has a short, thick taproot that stores sugars and starches. Grasses have fibrous root systems. There's one primary root, but it has many equally sized branch roots that grow separately. And they, like I said, they branch out and kind of hover along the surface of the ground. These fibrous root systems are helpful with preventing erosion. So we have the three types of tissue here. You have the dermal tissue, called the epidermis, and then vascular tissue and ground tissue. Remember that roots bring in water and minerals. So we have the epidermis. How are the water and minerals brought in? The epidermis is the outer layer, and the epidermis is covered with root hairs. Increases the surface area and the level of absorption of the roots. Then in the middle we have ground tissue called cortex. Water and minerals move through the cortex towards the center of the root, and the cortex also stores products of photosynthesis, such as starch, so it's a storage area. There's endodermis that completely encloses the vascular tissue in the center of the root. And then in the middle, the vascular tissue is called the vascular cylinder. This is a dicot root in the figure. They have a central column of xylem cells. Remember, xylem cells transport water, phloem cells transport food. There's an apical meristem down here at the bottom. The apex, the end of the root, is where new length is produced. That's how the root grows. There's a root cap there at the end that protects the meristem, keeps it from getting damaged as it moves through the soil as it grows. Soil is animal, plant tissue, sand, silt, clay, a little bit of air even. Soil in different places contains varying amounts. They define the soil. So how does the root take in plant nutrients? So you have to, in order for the plant to stay alive, these nutrients need to be gotten, these minerals, from the ground. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, calcium. Important elements. You can see here what each of those does. Give you some background on what each of these elements serves to do in a plant. Then we have trace elements that aren't as important in large amounts, just smaller amounts, more elements. The problem is excessive amounts can be poisonous, so there's this homeostatic balance. Too much or too little is not a good thing. Active transport, you remember that term from last semester, moving from low concentration to high concentration. Active transport proteins bring the mineral ions of dissolved nutrients from the soil into the plant. And the high concentration of mineral ions in the plant cells cause water to follow the process of osmosis. So water will follow the ions, flow into the root as shown in the figure. The water and minerals pass through the cortex and move toward the vascular cylinder. There's a waterproof zone called the Casparian strip that makes everything go in one direction. So forces water and minerals to move through the cell membranes of the endodermis rather than in between the cells. The endodermis then can control the water and dissolve nutrients that enter the vascular cylinder. And like I said, won't be any backflow leaking back out. As minerals are pumped into the vascular cylinder, more and more water follows, producing strong pressure. This is called root pressure. Water can only go up. Root pressure is produced by active transport, forces water through the vascular cylinder into the xylem. Remember, xylem is what transports water. As more water moves up from the cortex into the vascular cylinder, water is forced upward through the root into the system. I guess it moves from the cortex into the vascular cylinder and then is forced up. Sorry about that. Misspoke. You see a demonstration here of root pressure. Glass tube takes the place of the carrot's plant stem and leaves. As the root absorbs water, root pressure forces water upward into the tube, which you see right there.